real original. Yeah, this is real original. Real original. Sign, seal, real original.
Hey, what's up, guys? Michael Sutton with the Real Original Podcast. I'm with my friend Liam Eriksson, the co-founder and the visionary behind the brand Guy Fawkes. Guy Fawkes makes products like colognes, candles, and they just want you to smell good. Liam, thank you for being here.
He called me a visionary, and I'm excited about that. No, do you think
you are, though?
I try to vision some things, but no, dude, I appreciate you having me on, having Kevin in the background, and stoked to talk to you, dude. Very stoked.
Yeah, man. I'm really excited, too, because it's funny that we have some mutual friends. Shout out PB Mountain Boys.
Shout out Mountain House. Shout out Andrew, Brandon.
Dan, Corey, Scott, the whole gang.
All good.
You know what
I was just with all of them on Friday at Brandon's DJ set.
Yeah, dude, when they do the Sunset Cliffs thing and they post up, I mean, it's like, does it get better than that?
It's effectively San Diego, like through and through. You know, you just get a beautiful sunset. They'd had one at Jordan last week in PB. It was a sunset set. You should have been there.
I should have been there. I think I was working.
It's okay.
But the thing is, I think that's a great segue into Guy Fawkes, because I feel like just like how that is your quintessential just San Diego vibe, like sunset, looking over the beach, DJ set. I feel like that's kind of the vibe I get from some of your fragrances and just your brand in general. I mean, is that kind of accurate? Do you feel like that is a fair representation or kind of captures part of like the vibe of Guy Fawkes?
Yeah, I think so. I think like our goal, and I'm sure we'll talk about it throughout the podcast, but like our goal is to be the most relatable fragrance company in the world. So like, how do we do that? And I like how our fragrances could elicit like you at a beautiful sunset with your best friends, like maybe drinking a beer, like smelling good and just enjoying life and enjoying Southern California through and through. So that's good. I'm glad you felt that way.
Yeah,
for sure. Cause I don't think it was intentional when I started the company 6 years ago to kind of take you to that exact point, but that's exactly where we're at right now.
That's awesome, man. And I remember it's funny because like I went with some of the Mountain Boys and we met up and they're like, oh, we're going to this Guy Fawkes party. And I was like, what's Guy Fawkes? And then here we are today. So it's just kind of cool years later to see
full circle. You
just starting out at the beginning and then where you've come. So I think one of the questions that kind of sticks out in my mind is what got you inspired to start a cologne company in the first place? Because it doesn't really seem like someone might have an idea like, oh, I'm going to make a fragrance, but you actually went out and did it and built a company around it. So like, what's the story behind it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a funny story to tell because I've said it so many times, right? And now we've been in business for 6 years, and now I can kind of appreciate it a lot more than just saying it. So the story goes is I was a senior in college and I was a broke college student, and I worked at a nice hotel. And that hotel, like I wore a suit every day to work, and I wore cologne. But like, people always ask me if I'm a chemist, or if they ask me like, am I like super into fragrances or was? And the answer was definitely not, like definitely not a chemist. And then in fragrances, like I had like 1 or 2 bottles maybe that like my ex-girlfriend bought me or something. But like I wasn't like a fragrance aficionado. I know you are, shout out. And now I am in present time, but little Liam at 21 at Sonoma State, shout out. I just liked fragrances on me. I felt more confident wearing it. And I worked at a hotel, like I said. So like I kind of had to be a little older than I was kind of at the time. And I knew girls liked it, right? So I was like, hey, I like compliments and I like feel more comfortable and confident. And the story goes is I ran out of fragrance and I walked into Macy's because in 2014, that's what you would do. And I remember that whole experience was crazy, right? You get sprayed a ton of times by a pushy saleswoman. And I walked out of there with like a $130 bottle I couldn't even pronounce, right? And I remember walking back to my car. It was a 1993 Integra. And I was like, damn, that whole process sucked, and I would consider myself a pretty good buyer comparatively to like my other guys that like roll out of bed and like put a shirt on and they're out to class. And I was like, wow, if that experience sucked for me at that exact moment at Macy's, then this experience probably sucks for Michael, for Kevin, for any of my friends out there. And I actually walked back in to Macy's and I returned it. because I was like, dude, you can't afford this. In college, I always say like $10 was one meal. So it was like 13 meals. I was like, why did I? No, I was like, you don't need this right now. And I remember driving home and I was like, wow, like that idea, and I was a business major at the time, that idea stuck with me. So like, have you seen the movie Inception?
I actually haven't seen it, but I know.
Oh my God.
It's one of those I like started it with someone, I got distracted.
So it's my favorite movie all time, and
I've heard it's great.
It's in my top 3. Let's say that. And one of the quotes,
like a dream within a dream.
I'm gonna butcher the quote, but the most dangerous thing in the world is an idea. Right? It's like the most dangerous thing in the world is an idea, and that idea could be good or bad. And that idea is just stuck in my head. So that was in 2014. Let's fast forward to 2018. I was finally able to start the business itself to what it is now known today. And so now we're one of the fastest growing men's fragrance brands in the entire country. And it took a lot, and I'm sure this conversation will go into that, but that's like the inception story, right? Why did you start it and how did you start it? So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And I also kind of like, you went to Sonoma State, you mentioned.
Harvard of the West. Actually.
Harvard of the West.
Known in some circles.
When did you come down to San Diego?
Yeah, so I went to Sonoma State, graduated in 2014, and then I was supposed to move to LA, actually. I never wanted to stay in Northern California. I'm from the Bay. Shout out Gilroy. And garlic capital of the world. Also, a fun fact, I come from the smelliest city in the country.
Well, perfect. You're just trying to make up for that.
Yeah, someone told me that. I was like, damn, I have to really market that, because I never thought about that. Someone's like, man, you're like, town's super stinky, and then you have a fragrance company. I was like, damn, you're totally right. Like, I should probably lean into that. Yeah. You know, like, this guy came from the smelliest place.
He went from smelling the worst to smelling the best.
The best.
Yeah.
Click now. Yeah.
Or you could just make a garlic fragrance.
I already did. April Fool's last year, it popped off. I don't know if you saw that video.
No, did you do it for like a marketing thing?
Yeah, it was a roasted garlic candle, and everyone fell for it. And it looked Kevin edited it, and it was so good, dude. If you're listening, watch that video. It's probably the best video of all time. Like, I tagged like Gilroy Chamber of Commerce. Like, I tagged my high school. Like, they were reposting it. It was hilarious. Like, awesome. People thought it was real. But yeah, so I ended up working in San Francisco, which was only an hour from Sonoma. Only thinking I was going to be there for like a year or two. I ended up being there for 6 years, and it's for sure like my favorite city, other than San Diego.
Yeah.
And so during COVID, I always wanted to move down to San Diego, but there, as you know, industry down here is just quite difficult comparatively to LA or SF. And it was prior to COVID. And obviously COVID opened up, sorry, everyone that lived in San Diego prior to COVID. It just opened up that avenue to where I could take, I was actually working at a company at the time. And they're like, hey, we're not gonna be in office for like 7 months. And I was like, sick. I'm gonna move. I didn't tell them, actually. I was like, I like signed my lease before telling them. And
you and a lot of other people.
Yeah, for sure. But like, I actually moved here real early. So like, I moved here in like the beginning of June. Yeah. And like March happened. So like 3 months, we didn't know where we were gonna live, obviously.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm actually gonna leave now, the SF. Yeah. And so yeah, I moved down. And before I moved down, I hit up my co-founder, Grant, and he was in LA. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna move to San Diego. I think it'd be a great idea if you moved down to San Diego too, so we could focus on this business, because we've been doing it remote this whole time.
So you were building the business while you were still working in like a tech job in SF.
Yeah, exactly. So that was from 2018 to 2020, moved headquarters down from 2020 to now. And Grant, my co-founder, and I, we moved in together. So it was epic for us to like really, really focus on it, because I was doing it all in SF. Like, I had products, I was packing orders, I was doing all those things. So moved officially to San Diego, and the rest is history.
Dude, one thing that I love about your story, and I love about so many of the entrepreneurial journeys of the guests I have on here and people that I meet and talk to in real life, is just the dedication and the hustle to like work a job and then be like packaging and sending and doing the fragrance business on the side, because I think that's what it takes, right? Is because we have to, like eat, have shelter, live our lives, but also like if we have this vision and this dream, it's got to be non-negotiable, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think like even my friends have talked to me about it when I was pitching them. I actually took like a couple of them out to dinner. I was like, guys, I have this crazy idea. Cologne. And they're like, what, bro? Like, I don't even wear cologne. Grant, my co-founder, didn't wear cologne, right? So like, I would remember like, and my friends are so like supportive, but like they all pretty much didn't realize why I was starting the company in terms of like where we are now, kind of thing. And so yeah, like me, dude, literally I used to I used to write handwritten thank you cards to every single order. Every order. So like you'd order on Guy Fawkes when you first started for the first 3-ish years, first 4 years, every order would be me handwriting them. And I'd be like, thanks, Michael, for your support. Really appreciate it. Like, and I'd be on the freaking Muni bus in SF writing them, going to work, right? I'd come back home after working 8 hours at like a really awesome startup that I worked at. And I'd pack orders, and then I'd leave the handwritten thing in the morning because I'm like, okay, this takes so long, and I could just like kind of bust them out. But yeah, and I'd be filling orders. I'd be filling, like, there's so many stories I can get into of like the early struggles, but it's kind of crazy looking back on it now, bro. Because like, to be completely honest, and I'm sure you talk to other entrepreneurs like that, and including yourself too. I'm sure you feel this way. I was like, dude, there's like never a doubt. I was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna keep doing this until I could afford it full time.
Yeah.
And then after you hit that threshold, which is an amazing threshold for whatever you're doing, if you could just be your own boss, like life is quite beautiful. Like, but I never was like scared. I don't know. I was never like, oh, what are you going to do about this? I was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to make enough money until I could take it full time and hire a team. Right.
Yeah.
Like to me, there was never like any, it sounds weird, but like, there's really never any doubt, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense to me because I felt the same way. Like when I got into real estate, it's really competitive, and everyone, when you tell them what you're doing, whether it's starting a fragrance brand or getting into real estate, or like I started a fintech as well with my co-founder Alex, and we like every time a lot of people you do something, they're like, well, that's not going to work, or why would you do that, or that's really hard, right?
Yeah.
But for me, every time I've gone into a venture, there's just that idea. Like I like the kind of the burn the boats thing, right? It's like,
what's that?
Oh, you never heard about that?
No.
I don't think it actually happened, but they said that
it's an old
like
wives' tale.
when like the some part of the Romans from Troy or some old Romans or Greeks went to an island to take it over, and they burned all the ships because they're like, we're either going to take this island over,
or you guys are just going to be stuck here.
Just going to be dead.
Yeah.
So it's basically like there's no, like, failure is not an option. There's no retreat. There's no going back.
Damn. I thought you meant like they burned the inhabitants' boats, not their own.
No. They burned their own
I was like, man,
boats.
that's a really good strategy.
Well, there's another one about throwing the hat over the wall, right? Where the kids go out and they're like, I'm going to throw my hat over the wall because if I come home without my hat, like my parents are going to like whoop me. It's obviously an old story when people are still whooping their kids, but you could also say throwing the hat over the wall. There's a lot of those little things, but I think like the bottom line is having that vision and not being willing to let go of it or have it go to the wayside or be a failure, and just seeing it through all the way. And there's something really powerful about that. And I feel like for me, whenever I go on this thing, and you asked me outside before we started recording about like getting into real estate or why I did some of these things. And I was like, honestly, intuition, man. What do you think? Like, did you have a strong intuition to do this? And when was the turning point from like, this is an idea because of this experience I had when I was 21 in college, to actually like taking that first step towards starting the business?
Yeah, dude. And yeah, I appreciate you prefacing that as well. And this is something I've thought about as of recent, to be completely honest, that I don't think I've ever really shared. Like, I come from a small town, right? It's this Gilroy, California is the furthest city south.
G-Town, Garlicville.
Hey, you already know it, Gilas. The Roy, actually, that's what I call it. So the town's the furthest city in Silicon Valley. The furthest south you could possibly get. People in Silicon Valley will be like, you guys aren't even part of it. You guys are like Farmville. We're like, yeah. But the cool thing about my hometown, and I'm really prideful of it, is that it really didn't actually matter what economic or racial background you're from. Like, you could be Hispanic or white or like black or whatever, Asian. Like, I'm half Filipino, half Swedish. Also, shout out. And like, I didn't know how important that was until I got older. So I went to Sonoma State, and Sonoma State isn't known for anything either, right? So I'm just like going from a town that's known for a produce, right, garlic, to a school that's literally known for nothing else, right?
Business.
Wine, but like name one alumni from Sonoma State, right? Larry Allen.
My boy Grant, shout out.
Yeah, and Grant.
Big
but like,
homie.
And so like I didn't get to San Diego State, and I didn't get into that was the school I really wanted to get to, go to, because I've always loved San Diego ever since I was a little kid. I would come here for vacation. So I go to Sonoma State, I graduate, and I move to SF, and no one, like, there's not that many people from Sonoma State that actually go to the big city, which is San Francisco. And I don't know. I just kind of felt like fish out of water a little bit in terms of like, do I have worth or value with the big dogs, right? I didn't go to Harvard. I didn't go to Stanford. So I ended up working in my career and got really good experience. And that experience gives you confidence, right?
Yeah.
So I had that idea in 2014, but I didn't do anything for 2018. People were always like, what were you doing for those 4 years? I was like, dude, working. Like I was starting my career and I got into tech sales and I like loved what I did. Kinda, you know, I knew it wasn't always going to be my path.
Yeah.
And I worked out at another startup and I was their top accounting executive, which was awesome. And like, I really needed that badge of honor to be like, yo, you got this. And one day I walked in, we raised, I think $25 million, Series B. And after a year, I walked into work one day and all of us were let go. We ran out of money.
Damn.
And the CEO at the time, I don't want to bash him, but like I've said this in a couple other podcasts too, like he legitimately gave me the confidence because of his failure. And what I mean by that is that he was a Stanford MBA, was a consultant, like never really worked, like had a like, dude, I've had a full-time job since I was 16.
Yeah.
Straight up, right? So like I paid my rent in college and all my bills, right? So like I know the value of a dollar and I know how to talk to people and I know how to operate. And like when he failed us, legitimately failed 80 employees or whatever it was, I was like, wait, why did we trust him in the first place? Oh, because he got his MBA at Stanford? Yeah, like we kind of did, right? And I think that was the wake-up call, Michael, where I was like, all right, bro, like now I have 4 years have elapsed where I'm getting confidence and I understand the world just better. And I'm like, wait, all these titles or positions or schools or companies that people work at, like who are the people that are actually doing the work? And that's when I actually after that happened, I went around the world and I traveled for 2 months by myself. And I went to all these, and fortunately I just spent all my money. It was like all my savings for the most part. And I was able to travel around the world. And there's one story in Bali that changed my life forever. It was my first mushroom trip, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And
we don't condone drugs.
We don't condone drugs.
Podcast,
no.
But
no, I mean, and I don't even mind talking about it. Like, I don't think I've ever talked about it.
I mean, it's California,
publicly.
man. I feel like, you know.
I don't think my parents know. Like when they listen to this podcast, but like regardless, like I got nothing to hide. It was a transformative experience, and I don't know what it was, the universe or God or whoever you want to call it. And I remember being there on this beautiful beach, and it was phytoplankton season, and I was with such a good group of people that I just met in Bali, and I remember this was a kind of a journey trip for me, right? I left and I was like, dude, what are you going to do? I got another job lined up at the time. And I was in Bali. It was like midnight and we're just sitting on this beach listening to music. And I go in the water and it's phytoplankton season.
Oh, yeah.
So dude, I literally feel like I'm an avatar, right? Yeah. And I'm like kicking around. I'm by myself. All of my friends are behind me. And I'm like, and I like look up to the stars. And then like I said, I don't know, the universe or God or whoever it may be was like, kind of explicitly was like, Liam, stop being a bitch. Like straight up, like in my head, I was like, whoa, like, and I remember being like, kind of like super vibey. And I was like, whoa, that was kind of stark, you know, like that was kind of like not
hear
pleasant.
It audibly? Because of a buddy of mine, Patrick, who's actually been on the podcast, he said, if he ever writes another book, he wanted to write a book called something like The Voice, because he's talked to so many people who have heard something audibly, like a voice kind of come out of nowhere and tell them something. Yeah. And it really shakes them to their core.
It was probably the most profound experience I've ever actually had in my life, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was just a beautiful moment, to be honest. And I remember that like vividly, and to this day, like I kind of credit it. And then I was reading like the Steve Jobs autobiography, and he credits like LSD and like crazy stuff too, which is cool. Like find your journey. But like I was then on a flight in South Africa for sunrise during that same trip. Wow. And so that idea, I was like, all right, well, what am I being a bitch about? And it was starting this business, and I was in South Africa. It was a sunrise over like the fucking Serengeti, bro. Yeah. You know, and I was like, this is insane. And I'm like 25 at the time. And I look out and I still have the note in my Apple Notes. And it was like, Liam, you don't need to be the next Apple. You just need to be the next successful entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. So by the time I landed, like back in the States, I was like, let's fucking go. Funny part is that I just started a brand new job. And so I was like, and it was cool because like they kind of knew about like my idea, but like I literally started the business, I think a couple months after I started. Yeah. Which was crazy. So anyway, I know that was a long-winded way of saying it, but like it took me from me being a little kid from this town that no one knows to me going to college of not like, we love this college, but like not that great of a college. Me starting my career, not working at like a Netflix or a Facebook or whatever it may be, and like just starting to get that confidence, and that instilled me to like bet on yourself.
Yes. Right? You know, a couple things that you said kind of stand out to me. And I'm really glad no one gave you a copy of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad back then, because I feel like the chip
my
on your
parents
shoulder,
read that. Yeah.
Of course they did. But it's like, it's just kind of like roughly the premise is about, you know, the intro about having the rich dad and the poor dad. And he talks about the dad that, you know, went to all the right schools and did all the right things. And then the dad who was a high school dropout in this. Oh, and the dropout is the one who's rich and the other one is the one.
Oh, really? I got to read it.
Yeah, you got to read it now.
Yeah.
It's a really good book, actually. Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
It's
like a classic. Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like it was one of the first books that came out and was like, hey, it's not about this. And he talks about the experience that he had as a kid and through having these two, his father and this mentor, other dad, and just about all of those experiences, like what you're saying is like that really, it makes you who you are, like having to work full time, understanding the value of a dollar, and then coming from like somewhere that you can't, it's almost better that you didn't go to a school with a name or have a company with a name or whatever, because then you can rely on that and use that as like, hey, I'm feeling insecure, so let me like use this shield, or let me use this like cape of I went to Stanford, I did this, I did that. You've actually had to do the things that you needed to do to get where you are, which I think is really respectable. And I think once you get to that level, at least like in my experience, it's like once you like claw and scrape your way into it, it's like, well, there's no real going back, because now this is my baseline and I have the confidence because I know I've built my way up here.
For sure. And I honestly, I credit that a lot to my mom. She came from the Philippines by herself to the United States when she was 25 or 24. And it's just crazy, bro. Like, I think the immigrant mindset in America, like you being able to start the American dream is real. And like, so I'm prideful of the country, regardless of what it may be politically. But like, it's so beautiful. And my grandpa came from Sweden, by himself when he was 18 to this country, right? So it's like, I don't know. I just like, it's just really cool, like to have that immigrant story and instilled in my blood and have that chip on your shoulder. Because a lot of the most successful entrepreneurs are first gen Americans or like brand new to the country. And you need that. And I think you said a really good point that I should structure my brain a little better next time, is like, it is like now my shield. And I've told Grant this too. It's like, dude, I could be in a meeting now with literally anyone, like business wise, I don't care what it is. And like, I feel like I belong there kind of thing, where I'm not like, I'm sure I'm going to like be stoked if I meet like, actually the person that I would be stoked to meet right now is Jay Shetty. Like he's
Jay Shetty's dope.
He's my dog, dude. Meditate with him every morning.
My
but like,
one person.
Yeah. Who's yours?
Larry David.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one.
I feel Larry, like it's, my buddy met him and he said,
copy paste what he is in real life.
Yeah, he said it was like exactly what you expected, and it was so good.
Yeah. Comedians kind of scare me because they're so witty.
Yeah,
you know, and I feel they always got something else. You know, like give me the real you. You know.
Yeah, I mean anyone in showbiz, right?
Right. Yeah, but anyway, I use that to say like I'm very grateful for the opportunity of where I came from, and obviously it's like been a tough road, but like as I'm 32 now, it's like I'm just so grateful of having that shield that you kind of talked about, where I'm like, oh yeah, I've eaten shit so long that like I now know how to get out of it, and I now just have learned so much, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, but like Guy Fawkes was certainly the opposite of an overnight success. And like when people ask me, they're like, oh, like are you like, if you ask little Liam at 28, 26 where we're at right now, I've told this to Kevin before, but like I'd be like, what took so long? I'd be like 6 years, dude. That's hella long. Yeah, it's past college.
But, dude, it's like I feel like there's a great quote that I like. It says people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 5.
Yes.
And I mean, dude, you're 32. I'm 36, but I can tell you my life between 32 and 36 has changed a lot.
Yeah.
And so you're still a baby on the entrepreneurial
Dude, thanks,
journey.
man.
You know what I mean? And so maybe not if you go out in PB, but you know, on the entrepreneurial journey, you're still a baby.
For sure. And I'm grateful of that 100%. Yeah. Like finding your footing, you know, you probably like, I compare it to like for Guy Fawkes wise, like Steph Curry's my favorite athlete of all time. On the record, he's like obviously Bay.
I was gonna say,
like,
I mean, if you're from the Bay and you don't like Steph Curry, it's kind of a sin, I feel like.
For sure. And like obviously like everyone in California love Kobe. And who doesn't love Michael Jordan, right? They're the epitome. I'm using basketball references, but like, dude, my favorite sports team, like, and this such a transcendent athlete. Guess when Steph Curry made his first All-Star team? Guess what year?
I don't know.
Just guess.
2015.
No, but like, guess what year he was in?
Oh, like how old he was?
No, like what year in the league was he?
First year.
Is 5. His 5th fucking year, Steph Curry got to the All-Star game.
Damn.
5th year, right? So like, I love that because it transcends Guy Fawkes. Like we found our true footing like year 5, where like I looked at Grant, and I was like, let's go. Like this is like we're on to something, and it just took that long. It took half a decade.
Do you know how bamboo grows?
No.
So it takes, what they say is it takes 5 years to set out roots.
Yeah.
And once its roots are in, then it grows a foot a day.
Compound interest, baby.
Compound interest.
Compound
that's right.
interest.
So that's where you're at right now with the business.
I think so, dude. And I'm so grateful of that. Like, to be completely honest, like compound interest is a real thing, whether it be your investments that I don't look at or like kind of what we talked about.
Yeah.
Or it be a business. Like it really is. Good things happen when you go hard. One of my favorite quotes, John Barker, if you're listening to this, you tell me that all the time. And then what I was telling you earlier, Bill Walsh, the score will always settle itself. So as long as we're working, as long as we're doing the right things, like, dude, only good things will happen, especially if you like it, right? Dude. And I tell my co-founder Grant, like, I'm just so grateful that we like love what we do, right? Because if we sold like widgets on Amazon and made more money or whatever it may be, like, dude, we're hyped about the fragrance industry and we were hyped to change it forever. Like, we want to be known for that. Sorry, kids see it or grandkids see it, where they're like, oh yeah, that one company changed the way that fragrances are bought, perceived, experienced.
So tell me a little bit about your company, Guy Fawkes, and how, like, what perception are you wanting to change, and kind of like who is like your ideal, kind of like who are the people that are into Guy Fawkes and are your loyal customers? And for anyone that's listening that maybe it's for them, like, who are those people, and kind of like.
Yeah, the jewelry I wear, one of the brands is called Clocks and Colors, and the founder's name is Shane Vitale. And I was able to cold email Shane Vitale years ago when I first started, and I was like, and me and him had a meeting. It was really cool because he's such a successful founder. And I was like, how do you choose your customer? He's like, dude, you don't, right?
Yeah.
So I could tell you kind of like who is our customer and who we think we're here for.
Yeah.
So who we're here for, why we wake up every day and do what we do. It sounds kind of weird, but like. Every guy, right?
Yeah.
Like every guy, like a bottle of fragrance is ubiquitous. Like it is everywhere. Everyone knows what it is, and everyone might actually have it already, right?
Yeah.
But no one knows what's in it. No one knows who makes it. No one knows why it's expensive. No one knows how to wear it. And no one has any, like, no one relates with any of these brands that they have, right?
Yeah.
And so for Guy Fawkes, we want to make it very approachable, very relatable. So when you think of fragrance, the first name you think of is Guy Fawkes, right? Whether that be in a candle form for your home, a cologne for your body, or your car scent for your car, right? Like, we like to get into a guy's life. And
So
we're
it's
really
the cologne
sticky.
for the bros.
I wouldn't say bros. Like, I feel like just cologne for dudes that want to smell good, feel a little bit more confident in their day, but not have this be their identity. You know, like, I don't like, it's cool if you love fragrances. I know you do, but like, I'm sure you don't lead like a party where you're like, dude, I love fragrances. That's like my fun fact.
Actually, like, I've never even like talked about it on the podcast, and it's not something that I like lead with.
Right? Yeah.
You wouldn't even know unless you come to my house and you see like my collection,
Which is
of them.
dope.
Yeah, but it's like, it's not like a personality thing.
Some guys, they're called fragrance heads, frag heads. They love fragrances, and that's their source of identity, which is dope. Like, shout out you. That's not, they buy our stuff, they love our stuff. That is not our customer, right? Our customer is like you, all your friends, the Kevins of the world, I named all the clones after my best friends. Like, those are the guys that I want to be doing this company for. And like I said, my co-founder Grant, he didn't even wear cologne before he started a cologne company.
Yeah.
That's crazy, right? Those are the guys, because when you find out what are in, when you find out how to wear fragrances, and even our like scent palettes that we have, we just come up with really easy to wear things, right? And right before this, right, we were talking to your friends, and they were like, oh yeah, what kind of fragrances should I get? And
because he's like, I don't even wear it, but I kind of want one, but
yeah,
I don't even know where to start.
They're open to it, and I think that's what we do a really good job about, is like, that's our customer, dude. Like, yes, from going to 0 to 1 is super expensive as a company to get that guy.
Yeah.
But once we evangelize it, and once we hopefully could be front and center for him, that he feels like confident and comfortable picking this up at a store.
Yeah.
Or he's like, oh yeah, I remember that brand. I saw their ad. Like, I resonate with them.
Yeah.
Right. And relatability, I'll keep stressing it. Like, that's the only thing we care about, dude. I want you to like read the back of this box and be like, yo, like that's cool, like, or funny or relatable, and rather than it being so pretentious and like avant-garde and expensive.
Yeah, you know, one thing I liked is when we met at the Hotel Del, and one, I actually like that you, the founder, are like out there like selling your product, right? And you're like putting it out there like, hey, I'm gonna be here like in person, and you're like, I quizzed you on the scents. You know all the scents. You know everything. You really like obviously are passionate about it. But I bought a couple candles and I brought them home and burned them. But I like on the candles, it talks about like the vibe of the candle. And then there's like a little recipe for a cocktail you can make, because the glass is actually a cocktail glass.
Yes, sir.
And it goes with the vibe. And just like the whole thing, I could see how it's really, you're selling this kind of identity and brand. And to kind of like piggyback off that, like, you know, those who are listening, they don't know. Like, I have like probably like 47 fragrances, right? I have too
crazy.
many. Yeah, I know.
It's crazy.
I got a problem, but I like them. You know, I like to smell good. When I'm reaching for a fragrance, right? I'm like looking at the bottle. I'm thinking of the weather. I'm thinking of like the vibe of like where I'm going. Is it formal? Is it casual? Is it business? Is it like, do I need something that's like not too loud?
Sure.
And then I pick, and it gives me like a sense of confidence. It gives me a sense of like, okay, like it kind of shifts me. It's that final thing I do before I like head out into the world, right? What is the thing when someone's reaching for one of yours? Like, what is that feeling that you want them to feel?
Yeah, I think you hit it spot on, man. I think like we are not gonna make you be able to talk to that chick at the bar, right? Like, I think a lot of fragrance guys are always like being loud. You all know the guy in the elevator or the guy at the bar line that is like looking around, waiting for someone to talk to him. And for us, like, I want to complete your outfit. Yeah. What you just said. I want you to feel a little bit more pep in your step. You know, like I want you to have that. I want to elicit a vibe that you're like, number one, I have a tremendous value. Value is what something people say in our reviews all the time. They're like, I'm blown away. Like, I didn't think it was going to be this good. And I get kind of mad about it because I'm like, damn, you thought this was going to be like not that dank? You know, even at like trade shows that we're at.
There's a perception in the fragrance world.
Price quality.
Yes, price quality. And I've seen your videos on that, and it's so true. Like, I know, like, there's one, like, shout out to like Latafa. They have one. It's like a $30 fragrance, and it's...
Is it great?
Yeah, it's great.
That's awesome.
Super sweet, and it lasts super long, and it like smells super high end. It's like $30.
Great.
And there's other fragrances like that, like, and so for you, like, if you're like one of like something like this, like this, I have a good idea what this would cost of like a designer or like a niche cologne. Like, what does it cost from Guy Fawkes?
Yeah, so it's $78, and
so it's like half the price of what you're gonna pay.
Correct. Yeah, like and we're all extra.
A designer, if it's niche, I mean, it's like a third or less.
Yeah. For us, what we wanted to do and our unique differentiations and value props that we say are we're double concentrated. So in the world of fragrances, you're gonna hear eau de toilette, eau de cologne, eau de parfum, extrait de parfum. Shout out my French people because you know I'm not pronouncing that perfectly, but like fuck that kind of thing. You know, like we're like, well, no one knows what those words mean. What they actually mean is just simply the level of concentration of fragrance oil to alcohol. That's it. So like how strong is the fragrance, right? So like eau de toilette, super, super weak, right? Like 5 to 10%
Yeah,
or whatever.
the EDP always costs more.
Correct.
Right?
So the
Because
EDP is around 20% oil. So EDP is eau de parfum that we're talking about. All of Guy Fawkes are at 30% or an up. So we're all extras. So
you're the highest quality basically that you can buy already standard.
For sure. That you could actually put on your skin, right? Because if you go any higher, there's actually rules and legalities where like it could actually be harmful if you go higher, you know? Yeah. So we're in a really good Goldilocks zone.
Also, you want it to wash off eventually, you know?
For sure. And like our scent profiles aren't like super intense, you know, and like they're very approachable scent profiles, but we say we're double concentrated. So like it's just easy for a guy to understand that.
So it sounds like you've made like a really quality product that costs a lot less and that is like an easy, like kind of like, it's like an easy reach. It's like, I can put this on. I know I'm going to smell good. It's going to give me a boost of confidence, and I don't have to worry about it like offending people.
There you go.
Because I know like I've got like
put that in an ad, please.
Put that in an ad. Put that in the ad.
That was spot on.
You can hire me. I'm available for hire.
Done. Yeah. Okay. So this scent, we just came out with it. It's called Palmer. It's named after Grant's firstborn son, 1-year-old son. His name's Palmer, and it's inspired by a crisp hike at sunrise. So think of like probably you in Colorado, you know, there might be snow tops, might not. It's white pine, Palo Santo, and alpine air.
It's fire.
And alpine air. I don't know if you heard that last note, but it was alpine
that's really
air.
nice, actually. It reminds me of like a fresher, but still like it's got a nice like masculine smokiness, but kind of like a Santal 33.
Yes. Has the sandalwood in it. Yep.
But it's like, for me, I prefer this over Santal 33.
Shout out.
Sorry, La Labo. But this is really nice, man.
It's a good green one, right?
Let me ask you this, okay? So
What's up, man?
we have a fragrance, right? And you decide, right? Like we talked about another one. Off camera, and I don't know if I can bring that one up.
Okay.
On the show.
No, you can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
So can we talk about Fairway?
Yes, we could talk about Fairway.
Okay, so off camera we were talking.
You're actually the only person outside of our circle that knows what Fairway is.
Well, so here's the thing, right? So outside you're telling me you have this fragrance idea for Fairway, which is kind of like a golf, country club, like outdoor, like style of fragrance.
Yeah.
So you get an idea and you have kind of an idea of the scent profile. What's the process of like working with the perfumers and kind of like actually putting together all the different ingredients and notes to achieve your vision? Because when you told me what this was inspired by, I was like, oh yeah, I smell that immediately. Like it's on point. And it smells just like that. It's woodsy, it's fresh, it's like a hike in the mountains, right? But clean. And like you would want to smell like that. And I could see like it's very versatile, but like on a crisp day, that would really hit.
Sure.
Right? So like how do you achieve that and get that scent profile once you have the idea? Like what's that process like?
For sure. And yeah, I think if my first question I get asked the most is, oh, are you a perfumer or are you a chemist? And then the second question I get is, how do you do it? And that's such a valid question, of course. How do you do it? So when I first started, I would get off work in downtown San Francisco and I'd get off the bus and I'd go to Sephora and I would get all the free Sephora samples. Shout out Sephora. I'd get them and I would only get like 3 at a time or whatever. So I'm not like that guy.
Yeah.
Let's just say
you're
5.
not sample abusing.
I was definitely sample abusing, but I would have to go.
3 is considerable.
I would switch it up, so I wouldn't go on the same day of the week.
Yeah.
And I would probably take 2 weeks to test all of them appropriately, but I didn't know shit about fragrances at all. So like all I knew was like, I was like, I know what I like, which is cool. I guess that's pretty, I liked my intuition on what I just enjoyed.
Yeah.
So I just made products that I liked. So I would go to Sephora for inspiration and I'd be like, okay, like, what do I like about Gucci Guilty, or what do I like about Versace Eros, or what do I like about these mass-produced fragrances? And I'd write like rudimentary notes that were like fresh, woody, you know, like I didn't even know what a scent wheel was, you know. If you're listening to like a scent wheel, like it tells you all these different types of fragrance, like it's literally a circle and you could hit different elements. Anyway, I didn't know anything about that. I was just going on vibes. So when I first came out with the company, when we started with 6 fragrances named after my 6 best friends, all of those were complete crapshoots, like not inspired by a story, not inspired by like a where I just said with Palmer, the exact opposite of that. And it was just like, I like these fragrances. Like, let's figure out the story. I didn't even know that we needed a story, you know, to be honest, right? Like, because you're only thinking about product. Anyway, as we, and I worked with perfumers, and I was like, hey,
that was your story, right? Was like, I'm going to make something inspired by the people I love. I'm going to name it after the people I love. And it's going to be for people who want to smell great and don't like want to go through the hassle of going to a department store. For
sure. Absolutely. I think the value and the inspo was like, what would guys just like straight up? Yeah. And now we're such a mature company where, and I'm grateful of this, is like now we have to tell stories in a good way and we're prideful of doing it. And now we have like for Palmer, like we had a gap in our green fragrances. So like think of your woods, think of like literally you in the mountains. We don't have that many. We don't have scent profiles like that. So like now we build for gaps and we build for things that we like. And we're testing fragrances right now for that new scent called Fairway, as you just described. And I told Kevin and Grant this the other day. It's like every scent we've ever come out with, I've liked it immediately. Like you can't convince me to like something. And I find myself, oh, is this good enough? Is this B+ good enough? No, it's not. It's not good enough. And now we're like really cutthroat on what we like and what we don't like. And there's going to reach a point where we're going to have to come out with a scent that maybe it just isn't my cup of tea, right? And that's natural, but like we're not there yet. So Fairway, we wanted to, so the Founders Reserve line that you're referencing is Nightcap, which you have. Shout out you. Thank you for supporting us. Nightcaps are very polarizing winter fragrance. It's awesome. It's bourbon. It's like vanilla. It's charred vanilla. It's vintage leather. It's a very, very cool vibe. And we were explicit on telling that story.
Yeah,
we wanted you to be with your matte black G-Wagon outside. It's dumping snow out. You're with your partner. The fire's crackling. Guess the fuck what? That's what the scent smells like. Yeah. And it does. Like, objectively.
Well, when we were talking before this, like Nightcap, when I sprayed it and I smelled it, it's very strong. It's very... A lot of your other fragrances, or I would say all of your other fragrances, are easy to like.
Yeah.
Easy to reach for, like what we call like a dumb reach. Like I can just pick this up, spray it on, that. And it's like, I don't even have to really think. I know it's going to smell good, and I can kind of go whatever, most any occasion, right? But sometimes you want that like date night, that kind of statement, that going out, and Nightcap like really has that. And it really actually, for anyone, if they're into fragrances, like it kind of like almost smells like a Penhaligon's fragrance, which is like a high-end English company that's been around forever. So yeah, you guys really killed it with that one, and I'm actually personally really stoked to see Fairway, especially if it's in that kind of reserve line. Yeah,
so Fairway particularly, we're like, okay, so Nightcap's winter, Riviera is our summer one, when we filmed it on a yacht, and it's like super awesome and Mediterranean.
Yeah,
Riviera. And for spring's been tough. This probably has to be, Kevin, do you think this is like the hardest scent we've ever had to come out with? I think so too. Yeah. It's just super difficult because spring is pretty feminine, to be honest.
Yeah.
So like white florals and like greens and like really light fragrances, which we love. We love when it's really approachable. But when you're spending $124 on our luxury line, like a dude wants to smell pretty loud.
Yeah.
And he wants
your luxury line is getting into kind of the price range of like an EDT of a designer.
Yeah, which
not
is crazy.
An EDP, but an EDT, which is the lower concentrated version. But you're in that kind of
wheelhouse
for
range, sure. Yeah. And back to the value point, like we want you to open that bottle and be like, wow, I'm getting tremendous value from this. And so spring, naturally, not to bore people with details, but like chemically, like citrus notes, top notes. So the things that you're going to smell initially, that's what a top note is, and a mid note and a base note. You've probably seen those. A top note is like very citrusy. It's very bright. It's very green in times, not wood green, but like green leaves. And those just naturally dissipate off your skin faster, right? Yeah. So like, how do we match longevity with springtime with masculinity? And it's been quite the challenge. We have 2 leaders in the clubhouse, pun intended. We're testing those out with our VIP members, and whatever they select is Fairway.
So when you say your VIP members, are these your actual customers and clients? And so you're actually giving them... You're including them in the process of finalizing the fragrance. That's awesome.
We did it for Riviera because I was like, dude, I like both of these. And Kevin and Grant were like, yeah, these are dank. And so we couldn't choose. And I was like, well, why don't we just literally ask our customers? And so we'll send a text out to all our VIP members. We have thousands of them. And we're like, we only have 30 of these. Like, it's called lab leaks. Try them if you're able to buy them.
Yeah.
Like, and so that we sold out of lab leaks, I think, in like 2 minutes.
Well, have you ever thought about doing like flankers of a fragrance, right?
What's a flanker?
Like, so a flanker, for anyone who's listening, is not like a fragrance person. Like, you have like Jean Paul Gaultier, Le Male.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you have like the perfume, and then you have the elixir. And so it's like,
what did you call it?
A flanker.
A flanker. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. And like Sauvage, Elixir, or we'll probably get there one day. I just like coming out with new shit all the time, where it's like completely different. Where like Grant was talking to the other day, he's like, how about like a Hefe like Elixir or something? I'm like, yeah, we can totally do that for sure in the future. It's just like, let's just come out with like, let's finish this wheel, right? Because that's where we're at. We're like, what do people really like? What do we like? And then where we have gaps, and that's now how we create it. And then we tell, what's the beautiful story we could tell? And like for Fairway, it's going to be you on a beautiful, bright spring day. The sun is shining, like you're drinking a couple beers with your friends, like everything is good, and you're hitting that
that's
ball
the best,
right in the fairway.
That what you just said.
It's the best. And then hitting a drive in the fairway, like also just like
is the biggest striping it right down the fairway.
I'm super into golf, and I'm not good at golf. I'm working on my game. Hopefully future Liam watches this.
We'll have to get out there because I'm pretty bad at golf too, but I
Are
like
you?
to play. Yeah.
Two bad guys at golf. I'm down.
Yeah, I'll get the other. We can each bring someone else. We'll get a foursome. It'll be fun.
I'm down.
Awesome. So what I feel like I should have asked you before, but I didn't, I don't know why, was why did you name the company Guy Fawkes?
Yeah, so the original company name before we went live was called Eriksson Pierce. That's my last name, and my co-founder Grant's last name. Super hard to spell. So our friends were like, yo, that sounds like a law firm. You guys should probably come up with something else. Yeah. I was like, that's some good feedback. We had like a logo and everything. It looked pretty sick, actually. I went on that trip around the world, like I said, and I learned who this guy named Guy Fawkes was. It's spelled...
So Guy Fawkes is a real person.
Real guy, but he spells it Fawkes. Do you know those anonymous masks, like the hackers?
Yes.
That's Guy Fawkes. That's actually Guy Fawkes. Have you seen V for Vendetta?
Yes, I have.
That's Guy Fawkes.
Oh,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So I learned all about him. I was like, this story is tragic and crazy. I'm not gonna say the full story, but like,
watch V for Vendetta.
Yeah, it's cool, story. But like, it's a face of revolution. I like the name, and like his cause is kind of cool. But he's also
and it's what you're doing in the industry, right? Or
correct. Yeah. You could. Yeah, if like my publicist will be like, we could totally work with this. So like when I came,
I said it, you didn't.
Yeah, when I went back home after traveling, I was at work and Grant was at work, and we would be on like Facebook Messenger, and he'd be hitting me with names. I'm like, all right, if we're changing the name, like hit me with the names. Send me all these names. I like things that are easy to spell. The Instagram and website
What were
available.
some of the names you turned down?
So one of the ones that we really liked were Fox and Fog. And keep in mind, I didn't know anything about foxes at the time. There's not even foxes where I'm from, for the most part. I was like, oh, that's sick. Like Fox and Fog, because I was in SF, so like an homage to San Francisco. F and F, super easy to spell. The .com was available, and I was like, oh, like Guy, and I thought about Guy Fawkes, and I was like, oh, you could say like this Guy Fawkes, and I was like, wait, Guy Fawkes, and I spelled it F-A-W-K. We have a screenshot of this whole confirmation. And dude, honestly, right when I said that, I go in like Squarespace, type in the .com, I type in the Instagram, both available. I was like, bye, done, you know? And I was like, that's it. And I think we have those moments at Guy Fawkes are not even just the name, but like even scents, Kevin, of like when we get it and we have the name of the scent, the three main notes we shout out, the type of scent, we're always like, that's it. You know, it's like, I feel like literally an artist at times when you're making a song and you're probably like, oh, this is it. You know, like when I got the Guy Fawkes name, I was like, oh, this is done.
Well, I love that because it's like a good friend of mine says, I don't think it's original to him, but he's like, more is lost from indecision than wrong decision.
Ooh, I like that.
Right. And so it's like, I like, and I would guess, and I'm wondering like where this has served you as an entrepreneur, but like, it seems like you have an ability to just like find what you like. You mentioned about your fragrances, like you don't compromise. There's no B+, like it has to be an A or A+, but you don't seem to waste time. You're like, I know what I like. I know what I'm going to do. And when it aligns, like it's done. I'm doing it.
Yeah. It's kind of like a quarterback when they're like decision making, you know, and I never understood that. Like for the best quarterbacks, they just make the decision. I'm like, the guy's open, you know, but it's not that easy to understand when you're in it. And so now I think that's just confidence in time where now I'm like, okay, cool. Like, and no, I'm not going to throw a ton of perfect passes every time, but like, we're going to get damn close because we need to. And I think one of the biggest things too, is that like, we can't afford to miss. Yeah. Like we're a completely bootstrap business, right? Yeah. We have no outside investors. It is us which isn't cool, normal, right?
No, it's
and
not.
Like a lot of my friends that are CEOs and founders, 95% of them have raised money. 95.
But it changes the dynamic, right?
For sure.
Now you have people to answer to and investors.
Oh my gosh, you have a
boss. Got opinions and because like one of the things about being an entrepreneur is like working a lot of times more hours, but doing something you love, doing something you're passionate about. Right, working with people you love, working on projects you feel are worthwhile, and not having a boss. And so, like, you'll work more hours than if you had a 9-to-5, but it's kind of on your terms. And also, like you mentioned it, I think in San Diego, like one of the hard things is now it's a little bit different post COVID. But for a while, like if you weren't like a doctor, lawyer, and biotech, it's like it's hard to hack it here if you're not an entrepreneur or have a side hustle or doing something.
For sure. For sure. And like back to your point too, it's like, what's the point of starting your own business if you don't work for yourself? And I'm not bashing my homies that have raised money. Like kudos to you. Like I read a whole book on pitching and like I'm from San Francisco and like I was gonna raise a couple $1 million. And the point I realized I was like, number one, I don't have that crazy of a network. And two, what am I actually doing with the money? Because like I'd read their pitch decks and I'd read their PowerPoints. I'm like, you're just making these things up, which I understand, right? But I, as a sales guy, like I hate what you said earlier about you being just authentic and honest, even if like it's not the best thing for you. It's exactly how I feel, where I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna take these people's money if I'm not 100% certain that this is gonna happen. I know that's the risk for businesses just starting. I'm grateful, and back to the point about what I made earlier, where like if you told little Liam like where it'd be at now, and I'd be like, what took so long? That's what took so long. But we're reaping our compound interest right now, where we're like, guess what? We have awesome cash flow. We understand our businesses. We have amazing retail partners across the country. We know who our customer is. We love coming out with new products. We get to steer our own ship. Like, dude, that is the level of independence that I just really want to stress to every entrepreneur out there. It's like, dude, if you could just do it yourself, like, it is so awesome. And like, I'm so grateful to even be put in this position, even if it ends tomorrow.
So let me ask you a question, because we've talked a lot about like the fragrances and the scents, but I'm curious about the experience as an entrepreneur. Right? So if anyone
Let's talk about it.
If anyone's listening that is an entrepreneur or thinking about starting a business or wants a side hustle, or it's a kid like little Liam who's like, I've got this idea to disrupt, you know, the clothing industry or whatever that they're thinking about doing, like, what are some of the key lessons you've learned on this journey, and what do you wish you knew when you started?
Key lessons, and a great question, by the way.
Thank you.
Key lessons that I've learned thus far is like literally bet on yourself. But also do it like, as I really passionate, as you could tell, like when I talk about things.
You're a passionate guy, man. You're a firecracker. I love it.
Well, no, because I just get fired up because I'm like, I hopefully could teach my kids this in the future. I don't have any kids, but like when they do
You'll have colognes named after them. I'm
100%. And they'll listen to this podcast hopefully in whatever many years. I think it's just really important to actually do what you like. Right. And I think within the last 4 years, Michael, I was like really obsessed about the destination. I was like, oh, I want to be at this. I want to pretty much, I didn't come from money growing up, and I wanted financial freedom. And I wasn't just chasing money. It was awesome that I had this opportunity, but like, obviously that's the scoreboard in business, right? It's money. And within the last 2 years, I was like, wait, you could actually like hit that point and then also like love what you do every day and enjoy the journey. And those are the things that I like really pride myself on now, where I'm like, could breathe and like take a step back and be like, dude, you're enjoying it. We're coming out with this scent. We're filming at a golf course, like with like grants flying in for it. Like we're hiring models. Like it's gonna be sick. Like even if I sold this business tomorrow, like I wouldn't be able to do that. And it's just so cool. Like, and we interviewed one of my favorite bands the other day. They were in San Diego. And like, I just interviewed him with Kevin, and like the video comes out later on today. And like, I just texted him and they're like, dude, this is so sick. Like, and I'm like, what would be my platform? Like, it's cool that Guy Fawkes makes me, or gives me that. And, so doing things that you actually love is super, super important to me. And I know it sounds cliche, but like, that's definitely something that has been instilled on me. And then I think your second question was
like, what would you have liked to know? Like, what do you think would have been a shortcut in your journey, or what are some like key pieces of advice you'd give to someone starting out? Yeah,
it's so crazy how business is transcendable throughout decades or like hundreds of years, right? There's still like
How to Win Friends and Influence People is
Dale Carnegie, shout out.
Yeah.
I actually read that. My first job made me read that, but I reread it a couple months ago actually.
Yeah, it's fire.
And it was crazy. Like they were talking about like the craziest like old school stuff, and I was like, wow, it's so like copy paste to nowadays. It's very similar to Stoicism. As you know, I'm super big into Stoicism and like ancient ways of thinking that are so applicable for today in the modern world. And I think that's what Jay Shetty does a good job about.
Him and Ryan Holiday really.
Ryan, those are my two boys. Yeah. Those are my two. I read Daily Stoic every day, and I meditate with Ryan Holiday, and I meditate every morning with Jay Shetty, and like those are my spiritual gurus for sure. But yeah, so like those two like things are so important in my life, and how what I would tell myself in the past would be like simplicity, I would say. Like, try not to overcomplicate things. I probably wouldn't come out with 6 fragrances. That's a lot. You know, like, it took us 3 years to come out with our 7th fragrance, right? Just to give you an idea. Like,
damn, 3 years.
Yeah, because like I had to sell out the inventory, and I was like, dude, this is taking forever. Like, to sell out, like, and like I didn't have money, right? So I would probably say that, but also like enjoying the journey, which is cool that I found it out now, right? I know other entrepreneurs have told me that, like, just enjoy where you're at right now. Because once you get to that destination, it's kind of over. Not over, but like.
But one thing you touched on, and it kind of made me think of something that I learned along the journey of like my life in entrepreneurship and just in life in general, is that like being attached to an outcome or being so fixated on the destination, right? If you don't achieve that outcome, you're disappointed. But sometimes the outcome and the dream that we think we have, when we don't get it, we end up getting something better. And then sometimes, and it's kind of like making a contract with yourself to be unhappy until you get something.
Yeah.
But it's really like, in talking to a lot of people, like I talked to my friend who, he had this idea, he wanted this GT3 Porsche, and he's going to go on this
Sounds
journey.
expensive.
It is expensive, and he ended up getting it. And but he wanted to be like, in his mind, he's like, I need to be like a Porsche guy. I need to be able to like actually afford it and have my investments in place and have my family taken care of and have our house and rental properties and all this stuff before. And really, like, once he got the car, it was great. But really, like, the gift was who he became in that process towards the goal, right? And it sounds cliche, but like enjoying that journey and like understanding, like, today you were probably in the good old days, right, of Guy Fawkes. Because in the future, you know, maybe you do decide to get an investor, or maybe you decide to start a different line or do something or pivot, or maybe you just grow to a level where you're like, it's not as easy to get like the boys together and film on the golf course with the models and do all that kind of stuff, you know?
For sure. Yeah. And I think it's also nice that like I had that kind of a switch even growing up. I was always like, I was on a call with my sister last night, and she's like, you growing up, like the only thing you wanted to do was become a millionaire. And I was like, yeah, like literally, because like I said, I didn't come from money where I thought I was not legitimately poor. Like, I'm so grateful for my parents and they have good jobs, but like my friends were in the cool houses, like, and they had these cars, and I was driving a fucking,
well, everything's relative.
It's all relative, right? Yeah. And so like, I use that to say, like, going to San Francisco and like trying to start my career and like making money, quote unquote. I wasn't making even that crazy of money, to be honest.
Especially in San Francisco.
Especially in SF. Like, I was just like, oh, I could afford like the bars on the weekends. Sick. Or a happy hour. I'm like, I'm rich. Like,
that's the PB way, dude. You fit in well here.
Right? You already get it. Now I'm a little Italy boy. But yeah, I use that to say, like, now within the last whatever years, like, it's cool that I don't actually need anything. And I say that to like my friends too. It's like, it's just so, I'm so grateful. And like, out of sheer coincidence, Stoicism talks about this, but like, it's so nice to not need anything. Like, I don't even have a car, bro. I haven't had a car in 6 years because I'm in SF. Moved to downtown San Diego, and I was like, oh wait, I don't need a car here anyway. Like, where am I going? And I could Uber everywhere, and it's fine. And like on the weekends, I'm like probably out and about, like hopping around, like, or I could just rent one, right? And like, it's funny, like, just thinking about those things, but I feel a social stigma or pressure to get one, right? You're a guy, you're a CEO of a company, you should have one. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, totally, it makes sense. Where I'm like, but financially, and like, it actually only makes sense for me not to have one. And I'll be like, I could afford one, but like, I don't want one, right? And I use that to say, like, it's nice that I'm not like, no offense to your friend, and I think it's amazing, but like, material items to me, like, aren't shit to me, where I'm like, that doesn't prove my worth. Like, proving my worth is my time. How's my time spent? I get to work with Kev every day. Shout out, it's his 2-year anniversary today, our boy. I get to work with Grant.
He's behind the camera, you can't see him. And if you're listening, sorry.
Yeah, if you're listening, and then I get to work with my best friend Grant, and like, it's just so cool that I get to spend my time that way.
Well, dude, that's like right now, right? Like, I saw full-time, like, selling real estate, but also full-time, like, building, like, I'm a co-founder of a startup.
Yeah, dude, you're crazy, bro.
Yeah, dude, certified insane. And working on, like, one thing about real estate is when my business got the biggest that it's ever been, and was most fun it ever
shout
was,
out.
It was when I had a great team around me, and every day I'm going into work and I'm seeing people that I'm super stoked to see, and we're having a lot of fun. And that's what, you know, some of the people who work on my team would say is when people ask him, like, why did you want to go work with Michael? He's like, well, he was like doing well and like, you know, running a good business, but he was having a lot of fun while doing it.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't just all miserable and jaded. It was
You had joy.
was fun, and we're enjoying it, but we're also like running successful businesses. And so like the experience of doing something like in this other fintech realm with a co-founder who's like a really close friend of mine, one of my best friends, like it's been such an adventure, and it's different because it's like sometimes usually I'm used to being the boss. So it's like my word goes, but now it's like we're 50-50.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
so it's interesting, but it's been so fun, and it makes it so much, I feel like for me, it makes it so much more rewarding because it's like we're working on this thing together and we're building it together, and like we'll succeed together or fail together. But but like you, it's like I got the intuition to do it, and I feel like there's just no turning back, and like things, you know, are really starting to like turn in a good direction.
Yeah.
But it's the whole time, like when we're like pre-revenue and doing all this and bootstrapping, like we've had all the challenges we've had and running it and building it, it's been so fun and rewarding. And
To win as a team.
yeah, to win as a team and just work with people you like. And, you know, instead of going to conferences like alone, it's like going with someone and having fun. And then like our clients that we meet too, and we like go hang out with them and do stuff with them and build relationships with them. And it's just really cool to not like have to work with your coworkers because you have that job just to be able to afford to go to the bars on the weekends, right?
Sure.
It's like we have this vision and we're like fighting every day to make it happen.
Yeah.
And we're doing it together and we're having fun while we're doing it, even though it's super challenging.
For sure. And yeah, I think you, and I appreciate you sharing that. I think you and your co-founder too are going to share like really memorable experiences, but it also is like, it is a little like full transparency. It's hard, right? Like,
yeah, it's hard.
Like with your friend, right? And yeah, Grant and I have a unique relationship, but like it's not easy. It's actually
it is.
It's actually, it complicates your relationships for sure.
It does too, because it's hard sometimes. Like, so if anyone's thinking of like building a business with a friend, like the challenge about building it with someone that you're friends with is like sometimes you get in disagreements about business or work or whatever. But then it's like
you're like, how the kids
bleed into, yeah, exactly.
Like,
you don't want it to bleed into the friendship, right? As you really want to preserve the friendship and do that. And so I think the good thing for us is we have like a shared set of values and principles that we follow.
Cool.
And I think that that's super important.
It's very important. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So let me ask you this about your company and just kind of
What's
you
up,
as
man?
an entrepreneur. So like on Real Original, you know, like we always talk about authenticity, right? Being real, doing something original. And I love having people and entrepreneurs like yourself on here because you're a real dude. You're just authentically Liam. Like, love him or hate him, like Liam is Liam, right? And he's about what he's about. And you've started this company, right? And you're doing something that's original. You're taking something that is done in common like fragrance, but you're putting your own like you've created your own vision and you're blazing your own trail. So how have you used authenticity or embraced authenticity to have success in your business and find fulfillment in your life?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting when people start businesses that they're not the consumer. Like, I just created a fragrance brand and a brand that like I truly love.
Yeah.
And like I'm making it for myself and my friends. So like that in itself is just organic and authentic. And like it's just easy because I get to be myself. Like reading the back of this box, like it's just funny. Like there's just like that's just us.
Yeah, there's
that's
a
us
sense of
talking.
humor.
Yeah, we're just like, yo, like this is us, how we talk, how I talk to Michael, or how I talked. I met you as a customer, right?
Yeah.
Like I talked to you exactly how I'm talking to you as a friend, right? It's like I love that, and I think that's how anyone should start a business. Is it should come from like real, authentic, you true yourself. And I think you getting older too, like you could then find yourself a little bit more, and like. I'm real cool with myself now, you know, where I'm like, oh, you can be brash a little or good qualities, bad qualities, whatever it may be. Like, and I'm happy with that, you know, and I like, as long as you work and you're a good person, like that's the only thing that matters. So like authenticity should just become natural, and that starts within. Yeah,
for sure. For sure. I can tell you're reading the Stoics. So
shout out my boy. Shout out Marcus Aurelius and Seneca.
Oh, dude, Seneca,
Epictetus.
Marcus Aurelius, the goats.
Come on.
So on that note of like authenticity and finding yourself and also like building the business, right? One question I had for you too is you had mentioned your mom and your parents a little bit, and you named your fragrances after your friends. but who have you had? For me, I've had great mentors that have helped me get there. And I guess you have like Jay Shetty and the Stoics. Like, who are some of the mentors or inspirations that you've had or found that have helped you along your journey?
Yeah. It's kind of hard for me to answer, to be honest. I think personally, I think my mentors were like my previous bosses, you know, like my sales managers or directors that like taught me how to be a good leader, you know? And that was cool. Like how to manage different personalities and like how it works in real life with other people. That helped me. I really do wish I had a mentor in business, because I didn't. Straight up. Like I didn't like Shane Vitale. He was like the only guy I ever met. I met him via FaceTime, and we ended up linking up in real life a couple times, which was really cool. But like I would just read books, to be honest. So like after I put all my life savings into this purchase order to like start the business, I was like, all right, what are you gonna do for 6 months, right? And I was like, I should probably learn. So like I don't know if you watch Dragon Ball Z. Like it was like a cool show when I was growing up, and probably still is. They have like this thing called the hyperbolic chamber, and that's like where you could like rejuvenate and get healthier. And I felt like for those 6 or 8 or 10 months or wherever long it was, I was just in this chamber, and I was like, what could you do? So every day at work, I'd literally listen to a podcast going to work, and I'd read a book on my lunch break, and I'd go home, read a book or listen to a podcast, and I would just get all this information. And so I would say like, yeah, reading really helped me, man, and really listen. And honestly, just the access that we have nowadays with podcasts. Like you could just like listen to the CEO of Viore on a podcast, and you're like, dude, that's so sick. Like your favorite brand. So like, imagine us like 30, 40 years ago, 20 years ago, like it'd be so hard to learn and gatekeep. And it's just nice that our generation, as well as our future generations, have access to information. For sure. And I mean, like you mentioned Viore, and I think it's so cool. Like now San Diego, like you were talking about. So I grew up in San Diego, and I'm from here, and like, actual shout out to San Diego. So like what's been really cool lately is we've had so many cool companies coming out of San Diego. Because you go to like Seattle, it's like they're like, we've got Microsoft and Nordstrom and Boeing. But San Diego, we've got Guy Fawkes, we've got Hugo House, we've got Viore, Pura Vida, Blenders, like so many dope brands and people who are doing cool stuff in like the kind of like, I guess, what would you call that? Consumer. Like consumer goods, fashion, that kind of stuff. And I think it's awesome that we have all these hometown heroes now. Because before, when I was growing up, we had a couple kind of like things, but it's like basically what is it? It's the weather, the beaches, you know? The vibe, dude. Don't get me wrong, the vibes are A1. But no, your city, like, and your community is so awesome, and like that's where I want to raise my kids here, and I feel like it epitomizes it. Because like me coming from Silicon Valley, it's like, what app do you have, or what SaaS company do you work for, or like, and that's amazing, and I think obviously tech is incredible, but I like fucking shoot me, dude. I can't stand this. People always ask me like, what businesses do you want to get into, and I know it's not going to be tech. Like it might be like tech adjacent, but like I like things that you could see, touch, smell, eat, like feel, and like to me that's so important. Like. And I'll always be in consumer goods, right? Or I won't do anything ever again. Dude, I like being in tech. I just don't like going to things where people are talking to you and they're talking this big game, or they're wearing their like, cape of you know, what we're talking about, the shield of like, I went to Stanford, or I went here. And it's like, well, what have you actually done? Tell me what you've done. Tell me what you've done. But they're really quick to grill you on what you're doing and asking questions. And it's funny, like when Alex and I started our business, which is a fintech called Fintech, people would ask, super meta. Yeah, it's super meta, and it's spelled differently. And it's like, he's British, and he's like, it does what it says on the tin. You know, and he's got all these other like little British sayings. I'm learning a lot. I love their banter. They're just like way smarter than you. Well, they just sound smart. I don't know if they're actually smarter, or if they just sound smart. One of my good friends here, his name's Ian McKenzie. Shout out. Dude, the dude's like an academic, you know? Yeah. And I'm like, damn, this is just crazy. Like you like, and the way that their delivery is A1. Yeah, and they, I mean, all the British people I know, they're, well, but I'm also in like a business world where they're all really smart, and but they also sound good. They just sound so good. Like something coming from him, it sounds so good and regal. I sound like I'm just like a California kid, you know? Well, because you are a California kid. But like, I think it doesn't inhibit me, because I can get kind of like, even my friends say this too, like I'm a chameleon where I can be in a room of like whatever, like white suits or like street clothes or like interview a band. And I'm like, sick. But that's good as a salesperson, right? And whenever you have a brand, you're still like, you've got to sell it. And I think that's something that's so cool that you do, is that you actually like get out there and sell your product. And you're obviously passionate about it. I mean, why be a sales guy selling all these other people's products until mine?
But I think like a lot of people, like once they get into like an established position or like they take the CEO role like or title too seriously, and they don't get out there and just like
hit the pavement.
And I think like there's no substitute for that. And like at the beginning, you talked about writing handwritten notes, thank you notes, and putting them in all the orders for the first 3 years. Like, I think that's badass. I had this guy in my real estate office named Dave. Shout out Dave. And he's, an older guy, been in the business a long time. And in his office, from like the whole wall on the side of his office is a stack like this high of boxes. And it's just like the whole wall. And I was like, Dave, what are all these boxes in your office? And they're all cards, like birthday cards, thank you cards. And he handwrites cards to all his clients.
That's lovely.
And he's like, and he's a super successful guy. And he's like, that's key. That's one of the secrets right there.
For sure.
Is connecting with people, showing that you care, and actually like caring and taking the time to do that. Yeah. And I think that especially being like, even in a service, like I'm more in like the service kind of industries and a little bit with tech, but like, you can't hold tech in your hands, right? But especially like something that you're in, when you get a product and then you receive a note from the founder and it's written by their hand and it says like, thank you for starting us when you're new. I just think that's super cool, dude. I know if I bought like a product from a startup company and they had that, like I would want to root for them and support them and carry them through the success, because I found in real estate, the people who supported me at the beginning when I was just starting out and continue to support me through like repeat business or referrals, like I get this feeling from them, like they're like, we were with you from the beginning because we like you and we believe in you, and we love to celebrate your success with you. And I think that that's so meaningful, is to find those clients and those people and those who really are friends, who are going to support you along your journey and cheer on your success and like be there for the long haul. For sure. Yeah. It's so interesting to see that, because like when we first started, we had a Kickstarter campaign and we got funded in like a couple of days, which was crazy. Yeah. And for us, I was like, this is exactly what I wanted. Yeah. Right. And I was like, and it's just cool to see those people like rebuy like to this day, which is nuts. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Cause like our products, you don't need that often. It's not like you're eating something and it's gone. Well, dude, let me ask you this. So what today, like what keeps you like engaged and inspired, and like, because you're probably at a point now where you're at like kind of like, I could call it like a cruising altitude, right? You've got some clients, you've got some systems, you've got some stuff. What keeps you fired up to keep building and growing? And what lights you up? Because I know being an entrepreneur, there's days where like you don't really feel like being on the pod or like shooting that video or making that call or talking to that lawyer, whatever it may be. Like, what keeps you inspired and fired up? Yeah, I think I'd say gratitude, to be completely honest. Like I said, my mom coming here when she was 25, 24, and my grandpa coming here when he was 19, 18, like I'm kind of just doing it for them, to be honest. Yeah. And like, I didn't realize that until I got older. I was like, damn, what a unique opportunity and hunger that they've instilled in me, where I'm so grateful of. And like, Russell Westbrook says that, like his quote, NBA player, is why not? It's why not, dude? Like, why not live life just so supremely epically that like you wake up every morning fired up to do what you do? And I'm grateful that my team is fucking amazing. Yeah. And I live in San Diego, California. I like, my house is awesome. Like I love my friends, my family's healthy. Like, why not? And dude, like, I get fired up about that. And I know that sounds maybe lame, but like, I don't think it sounds lame. I'm like, I'm true. Yeah. I'm like, great. Like, well, it's cool that I get to do whatever I want to do every single day and not take advantage of my freedom, and really build and have that. I guess the theme today is compound interest, but like, is to really compound that and develop really good habits and really good goals and live, dude. Compound effect. Actually, I'd like to share this on the pod. One of my good friends here in San Diego, his name's Kyle Ford. He recently passed away last week. I was with him, or 2 weeks ago. I was with him 2 days before he passed, and he passed abruptly, and on a Monday, and I was like, when I found the news out, I was like, no. I was like, what? I was just with Kyle, right? And it was a profound moment for me, to be honest, and that's so recent that I was like,
And I already thought about life like that, the kind of what I just described, but like his passing was such a nice, not nice obviously, but like it felt great for me to be reminded, and so grateful that I know Kyle's actually a huge Guy Fawkes fan. Like a lot of the photos with Kyle that we uploaded to his album was like with him wearing Guy Fawkes stuff. And he would never be like, yo, I bought your shirt. Like he would just show up like wearing an article or like wearing the new scent. I'm like, dude, like I'll give it to you for free, you know? Like, and he's like, no, I want to support you. Like,
that's the thing is the best friends are the ones who like, they don't want the discount. Like my buddy Mike talks about this, is like your friends, your real friends are the ones who want to support your business. Like,
sure.
They're not like, oh, let me get free shit or let me get a discount.
No, and I always appreciated that.
Sorry for your loss too, man. He sounds like an awesome guy.
No, I appreciate that, man. He's absolutely a legend forever. But I like to share Kyle's story of like his passing to our entire friend group has been like obviously tragic and super fucking sad, and like really hard for me to even understand like grief and like sadness and loss. But like it has fired me up even more, where I didn't even know I could have that level. And so shout out Kyle, shout out Kyle's family, and obviously a legend forever, my man.
Sorry for your loss.
Appreciate that.
Does he have a fragrance named after him already?
He doesn't.
Well, you're gonna have
Sorry,
to.
Kyle.
You need.
I know, right?
I mean,
it'd be a legendary fragrance. I'll tell you that
for sure. Well, that would be a bold one and a reliable, because it's like, it just sounds like an awesome guy. I lost a good friend of mine, Gabe, last year, passed away, and we were like, this is like one of my like oldest friends and super close, and kind of one of those things where you get the call and you're like, wait, what? Because this is someone who's so full of life and so loved and has so many friends and all this like great stuff about them, and then it's like, oh wait, they're gone. And it's like, talk about the Stoics, memento mori, like remember death.
Exactly.
Like,
I might get that tattooed actually on me. I've been thinking about it a lot.
Yeah.
I don't have a tattoo, and I was like, that would make sense.
Well, it's a good reminder, and it's aligned with like your values and the things you like in the Stoics, and kind of like probably like what's you're experiencing with your friend Kyle. But the passing of someone, it's always that grim reminder that like it could really be any of us. And it's like, why not start this fragrance brand? Because like if you take the safe route and you do this like job and you're kind of like, okay, but you never tried it, you never went after it, you never like saw what could have been or what wasn't meant to be. But it's like, man, to go, at least for me, to like, go to the grave not having tried, I think it would just be I mean, I guess if I'm dead, I don't care, but I think like if there is any kind of sense of an afterlife or your spirit leaving, I feel like it would haunt you. For
sure. And that going back to my Bali moment, right? Like literally it was like, you're going to regret this for the rest of your life. Like do it or don't, but you're gonna like, and I was like, oh yeah, I should probably, I don't have like at that point I don't have any investments, right? So I was like, oh, I literally have some savings, and I was like, oh yeah, let's just bet it all in black.
But you know what? You invested in yourself, and I think you said bet on yourself, and that's the thing is like, if there was a roulette wheel, like you put it all on Liam.
Let's go. Yeah.
Right? And so what's so cool about that, and for anybody listening too, is like if you spend money on not like some like scammers course, but like a real course from a reputable person, or go to a Tony Robbins event, or like just read books, man. I know one of my breakout years in business, like I think I read like 19 books.
Did you read? Oh my gosh.
Dude, and I never had like, I'd read like The Outsiders and like The Catcher in the Rye and like high school, but I never really like read. Yeah. And I had this like limiting belief that like I'm not a reader and I can't read. And so I started crushing audiobooks. And then I transitioned into books because I saw that someone's life work is basically distilled into 8 hours or, 300 pages. Yeah. And that I could, what one of my business coaches said, like, don't pay the dummy tax. Like someone's already done it and made the mistakes. Yeah. So learn from their mistakes and save yourself time.
And I think that's profound. And I actually just finished a book last night, and I write little, like only for myself. I write like little reviews in my phone. After I finish it, I put the date, I put a ranking out of 10. It could be in decimals, and I put like my synopsis of it, like just a couple sentences. It was "Go Higher" by Big Sean, actually, with a forward from Jay Shetty. And
Dude, I read Gucci Mane's Guide to Greatness. So
I hear that was great. I hear 50 Cents is great too.
50 Cents is great.
Sean's is like, dude, Sean's is incredible because I would actually, your next book, I'm not demanding it from you, but I've recommended it to a lot of people already.
Yeah, man. I'd read it.
It's incredible, dude. And so easy to read. You could crush it in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
He's really spiritual, which I didn't know. And because you think about him as a rapper and he's like,
which is like the most egomaniac.
Yeah. And like he tells you about him and his life and he's not what you think he is kind of thing in a great way. And like what he does. Anyway, it was just like, it was one of those books that like, you just don't want to put down because you're like, oh my God, this is me. This is me. Or I'm learning a lot. It's so relatable. So what's a one book that you'd recommend for any listener?
The one book that I recommend for everybody is, and I've probably talked about a bunch of times on here, is Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth.
A New Earth by
Eckhart Tolle.
That's how you pronounce his last name?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah.
Tolle.
Yeah.
I listened to that book in like probably 2018. And I had what I would consider to be like a spiritual experience listening to that book. And what I mean by that is just the way I thought about things, the way I felt about things changed.
Yeah.
I saw the world differently.
Yep.
I saw myself differently. I saw my relationships differently. And it caused me to have not a huge, but a small personality change, right? And that personality change, right, like led me to like at the time get rid of my TV and take a bunch of action and go in a direction. And it actually like that was that year where it was one of the 19 books I read. And it was like kind of the precipice to me, like really just taking off.
That's awesome.
And so that book I recommend because he talks a lot about the ego. He talks a lot about like past pain and just the blossoming and flowering of human consciousness. And I thought like, you know, it's kind of like there's some parts of the book where it gets like a little woo woo. And I was like, I don't know about all this, but like I've listened to it 5 or 6 times and I've read it as well. And every time I pick it up, I get something new and different.
I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah, dude.
What's it? Okay,
Eckhart Tolle, Tolle. It's called A New Earth. But like one thing is like I was talking to a buddy of mine and he was telling me like he had this guy who was you know, kind of like, you know when you get like street wisdom from like an unexpected source, and he was telling this guy like
an old wise head.
Like an old wise head is a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, he's like, well, yeah, like I like this stuff you're talking about, but I'm not really like sure about, you know, all of it and this and that. And the guy's like,
just bought gets delivered tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Way to go.
Also crazy.
Way to take action, inspired action. I love that. But he goes, he's like, yeah, like I like this part of it, but I don't like that. And he goes, man, when you eat the steak, do you eat the bone? He's like, just eat the meat, leave the bone.
Damn.
And I was like, that's fire.
Yeah, that's so fire.
You know, it's like, don't eat the bone, dude. Like, just eat the meat. Like, you don't have to like throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just like, eat the meat.
I love that, bro.
You know,
I love that.
Like I could do this all day with you, bro, because it's been super cool to get to know you. And anyone listening or watching, like we've met one time. We have mutual friends. So this is really like the first time I've actually had a real conversation besides like a couple like brief phone conversations and in person when we met the first time when you were selling your stuff. But what is something that people might not know about you by looking at you or hearing you that you feel like you'd like them to know?
Ooh, that's a good. I love your podcast question.
Thank you.
On my interviews that I've done twice, it's like, what do you play for, or like, you know, like why do you do what you do? What is something that someone should know about me?
Like, what's something that like you wouldn't know about you by just kind of like being around you, and like it would take getting close to you to know about you.
Damn, I feel like I'm pretty like open booky, to be honest, like where I am my true authentic self. Do I care what other people think? Absolutely. Right.
Everyone
and like,
does. If you say you don't, you're lying.
If you say you don't, I want whatever you're having. Cause like I'm down, but like, I don't know. I think growing up was like more of a people pleaser and trying to figure that out. And now like when I'm, as we kind of talked about throughout this discussion, like now I'm like a mature man getting there. I know obviously there's so much work I need to do, but like hopefully by the end of a conversation, like one that we're having right now, hopefully there's not too much to shield of who I actually am.
Yeah.
And I find pride in that, you know, and I find immense like joy in it because it's something that I've worked on. What's something, Kev, that you think
we got to go cheat codes
you learned from me? Open book.
Damn, the guy is just authentic.
No, I mean, there has to be something.
Well, I mean,
like, what's another answer so I could like, cross-reference it?
For me,
yeah, like what's your
thing? Okay, so for me, like I try to be like authentic and out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think like it takes like a few times to get to know me before I like kind of like let my personality out. And like, I feel like I like to joke around a lot and like talk shit. Like if I'm talking shit to you or giving you a nickname, it's because
that means
I
you
like
love you.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like a love language, you know? But for me, like, I mean, you wouldn't know until like listening, like that I have that much cologne. Right? Like, what's something about you? It could be something weird. It could be like, what's like a fun fact about you?
A fun fact is that I put on super hard with my Filipino heritage, like super hard.
You've been to Tita's Kitchenette?
No, it comes up on my DoorDash though. Shout out Kitchenettes. No, I'm just so immensely prideful of my Filipino heritage. My mom came here, as I said, by herself. To this day, I have 0 family members on my Filipino side outside of the Philippines, pretty much, right? Yeah. So like, no one's in the United States. No one.
And she's gone out?
Yeah, she's 9 brothers and sisters. 9. Damn. So I have a ton of cousins. I have 0 cousins in the United States. 0.
Damn.
Right? So like it's crazy that like I want to put on for that culture. I'm so immensely like proud of being Filipino and Swedish. I'm also Swedish as well, which I'm super prideful of. But like my Filipino heritage, like my friends know, if you know me, like there'll be like the freaking Kansas City Chiefs like kick returner. He's half Filipino. I'm like, he's Filipino. Like I'll know like every major Filipino because we all
Pacquiao, baby.
Of course Pacquiao, but like we all come from nothing. Where like it's so cool to see like they use the term representation, right? And I want to be that. Like I want to speak at my school one day, and one of the things that I want is to be represented Gilroy, California, right? I want people to know like it's cool to come from this town or Sonoma State. My dream is to do a commencement speech at Sonoma State graduation. Yeah. And I want people to be like,
you're on your way, bro.
I want them to be like, yo, like you should be like super proud that you're a Sonoma State alumni, right? Yeah. And like have someone to look forward to and look at for inspiration. So like representation, particularly from my Filipino heritage, my hometown, my school, I'm just super proud of. And to kind of wrap it all up, it's like, it's now my shield, bro. I take so much immense pride, and like so many people from those communities like really, really mean a lot to us and support us. So,
well, you want to put them on the map, dude. That's respectable. I did that too. Like I bought, when I went to community college and I had that mind switch, I was like, I bought the Cuyamaca College hoodie,
for sure.
And I was like, I'm gonna get successful as fuck.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna rock this hoodie.
Yes.
And I'm gonna let people know that like, just because you're young and confused and you got to maybe go this route and like you didn't go to college, or maybe your family can't afford to send you to college, like that you can still have success. My little brother stole the hoodie.
Did he?
Yeah, so I got to get it back from him.
Bro, I bought a $80 Sonoma State crew neck that I rock to this day. It's sick.
Dude, see, you get it. See?
Like you have to rep, dude. But
you have to rep, man, wherever you're from, and like atmosphere, dude. Slug, like he's from a rapper from Minnesota, and he's like all about that. Like
atmosphere, I know atmosphere, yeah. Shout out.
So, well, dude, thank you so much for coming. If you are into fragrances, or if you're not into fragrances, definitely check out Guy Fawkes. Like I sprayed some of this on here. Hefe, it smells good. If you're thinking about Guy Fawkes, if you're looking, dude, and you want like a quick, you can't like sample it online. Like what should people get, or should they get the sample kit? Like how do you get a sample kit? Like put the people on with games.
It's so funny that we didn't even talk about the starter kit. The starter kit's the whole reason why we came up with the company. Is like you got to try all of our 7 best sellers, and then you get a code to redeem for your full size bottle later. So you got to try all those, and then you get your full size bottle later.
Fire.
Instead of like blindly buying Palmer. Like, yes, you could totally blind buy Palmer. I'm confident that you'll like it, but like get the starter kit, get our samples first, and it comes with the code. Get it later. Always start with that at Guy Fawkes.
Yeah,
it's just the best. I don't want to tell you what you'd like. Just you try it, and then you buy it later.
But that's so dope, because it's like you get the starter kit, you find out from all the fragrances what you like, and you've already paid for it. So then you get the full bottle,
dude. Exactly.
And then you got the other one, so you know what your next one is.
Exactly. So people literally write reviews and be like, oh, I want this one, this one, and this one. And I'm so glad I got a try of them. I'm like, why would I pigeonhole you to get our bestseller? Like, just try all of them.